Yo, we are back. It is time for yet another episode of Worker to Worker. We made it to episode 15. 15 conversations of regular ass working people talking to each other about the importance of getting active and involved in their unions. This is Worker to Worker. The idea behind this is just that working people from different industries, different states, different unions, some non union. We even had a chance to talk to a customer from a Ralph store right before we went on strike that connected with us and let us know they were going to support us if we went on strike. We had a worker to customer episode. So, working people out there, getting connected, having conversations, getting involved with the labor movement and the idea of worker power from the bottom up, just us wage workers down here on the shop floors. And I'm very lucky to be here with a new guest, a new friend, new to the show that I've been hanging out with recently and wanted to introduce to everybody. First of all, real quick, my name's Eric, UFCW Local 8. Hi, you see me here all the time. This is exciting for me because it's always my face on this channel. So, new faces, sweet. We love it. And I'm here with my friend Yvette. Yvette, why don't you introduce yourself and let everybody know what you're up to and who you are, and we'll kick it.
Cool. Thanks, Eric, first of all, for allowing me to hop on your show. I think it's great when workers actually, put the word out and put the work in. So, Evet Avery, I'm out of Local 728 in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a UPS package car driver. Also, the treasurer and Southeast Regional Director for the Teamsters LGBTQ plus caucus, a DSA member, and I'm also running for president currently in my local election on the Empower Slate. I actually got a couple of elections going on, but another one for next year for international trustee on the Fearless Slate. So I got a lot going on as far as trying to get everyday rank and file workers involved in actually running for office and changing their locals and their internationals into a actually fighting, empowering, educational thing for our members, because that's what we need in order to be able to get through this time in our life and going forward, because we got a lot going on in the world that we need to make sure we got some strength in our unions for.
100%. And you said UPS driver with Teamsters. What local was that?
Local 728, and
Local
I've been around for
728.
10 years.
Whoop whoop. Out of Atlanta.
Yes.
That's cool. Shout out to the Teamsters. I love the Teamsters. I know within the Teamsters, it's so funny because when you get involved in the labor movement, you find out that there's like layers within layers within layers, you know. And I'm a UFCW member, so coming at this from like a really wet noodle union, basically like an inactive and unseen union, but massive. A lot of members waiting to get active, waiting to make some real change. But looking like the Teamsters in general, on a broad overview, they're awesome. They're like a huge inspiration for us. And then to meet members on like you that are on the inside that are pushing for even more positive change and even more of a push in a worker empowered and more worker democratic direction is absolutely inspiring to see. It means that the work is like never done, that we're like, as you move into union reform, like you meet people that are always pushing to make things better. Like when you see something that you're like, damn, I didn't know that could exist, that's awesome, I want that. All of a sudden you meet a person that's like, no, you want this, and you're like, oh shit, we can go for that. Like, let's go.
Right.
So it's been awesome to get to meet you and talk to you and see that perspective. I heard you're also running for local president in your local.
Correct.
Shout out to you and the Empower Slate. I see your sick background. I got to get a sick like at what cost background, because I got this blurry one that keeps like coming active like on this blanket over here, for example. And I got to get an at what cost background because we're actually running an at what cost slate in next year's local
Nice.
election as well. So, we haven't announced any specific positions that we're running for yet, but we're going to try to build a slate of 18 and run
Oh,
against
wow.
we're going to try to run against the full slate and see if we can make a major sweep for change. But if not, whoever does make it on the slate is going to go for it and see what happens. And, there's, obviously for people that are following the channel and people that know what's going on, we're pushing for some big things like strike pay. We want first day strike pay and a dedicated strike fund. We want open bargaining for members that members can participate in, member democracy. So a lot of more voices of the membership being taken into account on decisions of the leadership, which is why we want to have a full slate of rank and file people on that. Oh, you muted right there. Heads up. Were you talking to somebody else? Okay, cool. Got you. Well played. Very well played. Sorry I messed that up by calling it out.
No problem.
But running a full slate to make sure that there's rank and file members up and down the entire ticket, and it it is interesting to for us because a union election has never occurred in our local. So we have had the same president for the last 30 years, and he got the seat from his father who had it before him. And so in that time frame, like no elections ever ran, and it's because the incumbent just takes the seat if there's no challenger. And nobody in our union knows the bylaws. Nobody in our union's ever, thought to participate, knew that elections even occurred. So
Wow.
a big part of this is, just bringing that whole process into the light so that we as rank and file members of the union can see that like this democratic process, like even in a super ass backwards local like ours, UFCW Local 8, there are democratic levers that members will always have, that are actually, legally protected, thankfully. But we have local elections. We can change leadership on that periodic basis if we don't feel that we're being represented by our union. We have the ability to
Right.
vote on our contract, and we have the ability to authorize a strike. And so, even in the worst conditions, those levers do exist, and we should always be organizing around making sure that the workers, our coworkers, that we know what those levers are and that we're experts in pulling them, that we are very knowledgeable in the use of those levers, because that's how we impact change within our union. So thank you for the inspiration to for doing the thing, for pulling the levers. And if you don't mind me asking, like, what was it that inspired you to run in the first place?
Well, actually, this is my third run. I ran the first time as a part timer. That I started at the airport. I was a part timer and ran a few years back because as a rank and file person who sees issues within our union, issues within our contract, trying to get language change and things of that nature, that was the catalyst to for me to run. I saw things that needed to be fixed. And that was, like I said, years ago. I actually filed a grievance, group grievance back in well, before 2013, because we got the language changed based on the grievance I wrote for the entire National Master Agreement for all UTSers when it came to the pension language. So helping people recognize just a little part-timer like me and my fellow part-time workers getting together and filling out, hey, we stand behind this grievance, that we got language changed that affected everybody then and to come in when it comes to the pension language. So I thought, okay, if rank and file members have this power to do this, we can make more changes to affect, our everyday life in our local and within our international. So I ran back then, like I said, as a part timer, because I felt the need that, I felt like we could do something. We could make a big difference. I ran again the last election, and it was actually under the Empower Slate as well, but I was still running the second time as a secretary treasurer. So the first two times I ran is the second position in our local. And the president is the top position, secretary treasurer falls as second. And it's different in some locals, some it's the opposite, but in my local, that's the ranking. And so last time we didn't plan on really running right then because we only had 6 weeks to run. And our local is almost 12,000 members. So you can't reach that many people in 6 weeks. But they didn't want a white ballot, just meaning they didn't want some of the members said, look, we'll just pay for whatever it costs to get some stuff done. We just don't want them to go unopposed, right? So we did that the last time. Well, those two previous attempts were learning experiences. So then it taught me this is what I need to do in order to have a successful campaign to actually win the local back for the rank and file members. And so this go round, I opted to do president this go round because that was an eventual goal of mine. I did want to, start as a secretary treasurer just because I have a master's agreement, a master's in accounting and financial management. So I actually have a
Woo!
degree in that area. I fell in love with labor, so that's why I'm here at UPS fighting like hell with
Awesome.
everybody when it comes to that, because I just
That's
kind of fell
so
in love with
awesome.
this world that I never knew really was, existing as it did. And so like I said, I've been fighting since then, and that's why I want, our local to become a fighting local that actually educates the members because I'm big on us being transparent because that's an issue. With a lot of our things, they bargain behind closed doors. Members have no, real input on what's going on, and they could actually fix a lot of our contracts by just speaking with the members and actually letting them have, a back and forth input on what's going on because sometimes people been so far removed from the job they don't remember what really needs to be going on. And if you're not very active with your members on the shop floor, you don't know what they're going through. And it seems as if a lot of times they don't care because they're just bargaining over here blindly for us, and then we get screwed in the process, which is an issue. And so like I said, keeping our members educated. A lot of unions throughout the country, everywhere, not just the Teamsters, don't want to educate the membership for fear they may lose whatever position they have. Well, that's not how we need to look at it. We need to look at it as I don't care if I'm in position or you in position, whoever it is needs to be strong. So we don't want our unions getting weaker because the people behind us don't know what they're doing. We need to be mentoring and showing people the way, and how to keep our union strong, how to grow it, how to, increase the density of unions, because that's the thing that we need to be doing to have more workers involved. And so I know a lot of places, especially at UPS where I come out of, even though my local represents a whole 32 different crafts in 74 locations, majority is UPS, and we deal with a lot of harassment from that company. So I want to teach our members how to fight when it comes to harassment because I've been fighting. I was in court with UPS last month because I filed labor board charges against them for terminating me. They did it twice last year. Got my job back both times.
Get
Yeah,
back.
with back pay. Yeah, got back pay
Woo!
both times. And for them to stop that nonsense. We have to teach them how to treat us. So we push it, and I took it to the labor board, and so we're just waiting on the decision from from the judge. But I know it's going to be a victory because I have every right to wear my union insignia at work. I should have never been fired for wearing a union vest. And
Oh
this is something
man.
that the local actually gave me. It's crazy stuff. But we have to, go through things and teach these companies that we're not standing for nonsense. And that even though I got my job back and I got my back pay, the bigger issue is you do not touch us for doing something that's legally protected. And so we have to make sure that's, that's always the fight, and always enforced. We need to know not only our contract, but we need to know the law that helps us, as employees, because it's not a lot of them that helps most of us, especially in a right to work state like mine. But what we do have, we must utilize. And we got to protect these jobs. We got too many jobs getting killed because of AI and automation versus negotiating how to keep our jobs and train us to do the things to make sure that stuff is working properly. Whatever it
100%.
is, we need to be protecting union jobs. Even if we have to change the type of job, but keep up a job within our location. So, that's just few of the things that we're talking about doing for our our platform when it comes to the Empower Slate.
Mm. I felt like I was sitting in the pews of the Church of Labor, just getting preached to. I
Hey,
thank you for the sermon, sister. And I think there's a lot of working people out there hearing that it's going to resonate with. I want to touch on two things. First of
okay,
all, the courage that it takes to stand up against the company. I know that this has a knock-on effect in that your coworkers that are with you physically in your location, they see that. They see you do that. They see you come back. And when you walk back into the shop floor after getting your job back, dude, I bet you got a strut just like, man, you thought you could defeat me. And your coworkers are
exactly.
like, wait a minute, dude, you stood up for yourself and you won. That has a
Hmm.
inspiring effect. So I appreciate you coming on here and sharing that story. The more people that hear it, that's why this type of format. That's why putting this out on a platform like YouTube where people can find it, I feel has the potential for great effect because it will sit there forever. And anybody who
Right.
finds it and hears it, hopefully, like if you're a worker out there dealing with an oppressive management structure or a bad company that you know is doing things that are against the law or against your rights as a worker, and all you got to do is stand up for yourself, like Sister Yvette
That's right.
has done multiple times. Like you have to think these companies have unlimited time, right? They don't die; they're immortal, so they're not like up against the clock like we are, right? They can take as much time as they want destroying our lives, and they do it. And they also have unlimited money. So when they puff those two things up in front of us workers, more often than not, we crumble, and that's
Right.
why this worker solidarity is so important because not only can you stand up as an individual when you know legally you have the right to do so because then you have the courts behind you, then you have the law behind you, you have the luckily workers before us have fought and died for us to have those rights enshrined. I highly
Right.
recommend you go check out the YouTube shorts that we did on this channel last week about the hammer and the anvil. That is the hammer of the people striking against the anvil of the state to create these labor protections that we have. When we use those as individuals to protect our jobs, just know that that's the right that every worker has. You have that right too.
Mhm.
What we don't all have is the courage to do that.
Right.
So, hearing these conversations hopefully inspires you to know you can fight. But there's another piece of this that's really important, and that's that when we stick together, when we form unions, when we have class solidarity, when the people in the shop with Yvette build the courage and the class solidarity to stop working when she gets fired in a situation like that unjustly. She wouldn't even have to go through the courts to get her job back. She'd be back the next day. And that's what workers used to do. That's the fight we used to play. And unions have actually kind of put the shackles on us and taken that power away
Yeah.
from us in a sense. But just recognize that we do have that power. Our power is our labor. And luckily, that power has been used to give us some rights that protect us on the shop floor, like what Yvette has shown here. And that is really really important for us to recognize and to hopefully spread the stories around that like all you have to do in most cases is fight back. We are in a
Yep.
situation here where like our union doesn't really seem to want to do the fighting for us, and that them's the breaks, right? Like when you like
Hmm.
we're in a service model. We're in this like environment where we think that our union is a Netflix subscription, so we pay our dues, so they're supposed to do like bing 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 for us. That's not the case. Especially like you mentioned in situations where people have been sitting there for so long that they're so far removed from the actual direct shop floor experience that they can't even relate to what
Right.
our working and living conditions are. You know, we're talking about people that are making, and you know, shout out to UPS, you guys have a really strong contract, but in my industry the average salary is probably $50,000 or less for the grocery worker, and we've got union leadership that's making 5 times that easily. How can those people in a closed door bargaining situation just like the one you described be fighting for our working and living conditions when they're so far removed in their daily life? You know, when we go to our union meetings and park our cars in the parking lot, very easy to tell who's staff and who's rank and file. And
Right.
it shouldn't be that easy. Go ahead.
And I did want to throw something in. I know a lot of people think we have a great contract, and I voted no for the contract simply because when it comes to the drivers, I'm a driver now. Of course, the contract looked good money wise for the drivers. Our part timers were neglected. They created a two-tier part timer when they cut out two-tier driver. So I had to, we have to learn to look at the entire contract as a whole and not just, oh, I came out okay, so I'm gonna vote. Yeah. But no, we have to look at it, because if it was that way in the past, we had people putting in work, fighting and dying for us to have rights and good contracts and language that, we had protections when we first walked in the door off the street. And so I feel like we have to look at it like that versus just looking at, oh, I came out all right. So I think I'll vote yes for the contract. No, if it's some crap, it was some bullshit in there. And now our members
Yeah.
are facing that now. They're getting, automation is taking some people's jobs. They're closing down buildings. We're seeing some things that if we would have went on strike and went back to the table, we could have fixed those things. But
Yeah.
our leadership opted not to do that. They sold this contract to the membership who weren't really paying attention to everything. And now people are seeing now why we should have said hell no when it was, time to vote. So yeah, I always like to talk to the members because sometimes, of course, they'll put out there, this is great, this is great, this is great. But then the members are the ones who have to live it. And so you talk to them to say, how did you feel about the contract? Did you actually think it was good for you? Because, of course, we don't know what everybody goes in with all these crafts from day to day. So you have to see if they thought it was good and why they thought it was good, and then point out some things as to why maybe it wasn't the best. So I think, I always like to defer to the members in any
Yeah.
contracts when I see people, oh yeah, they won a contract over here at the UAW or they won a contract. But let me talk to the members to see if it's good, right?
Yeah.
Because, the upper brass will always say it's good because they went through negotiating, but
That's actually a
we got
very
to really
fair,
talk to the
that's a
folks.
very, very good point. And, as a
Hmm.
person that's not a Teamster, most of the information that I get is, basically what's published. And so
Hmm.
without like a direct member survey, which, at this
Yep.
point, you guys have been living that contract for a period of years, take a member
Hmm.
survey, a full member survey, and publish the results and see how the membership like actually feels about the contract.
Right.
That's totally true, and actually the only thing that matters. And for
Correct.
people out there, that we should take that into consideration because that is the only thing that matters. And that reminds me of, something that you mentioned earlier, where we as workers are put into this box where we are too stupid to understand and participate, at this level. Like bargaining these contracts for our futures is too complicated of a process for us to grasp. And I think you made a
Hmm.
really good and valid point that, you have a master's degree in accounting, which, not to say that degrees are a requirement, but to
Right.
counter the argument that we don't have the intelligence to exist in academia is invalidated by that point right there. But, I don't have any degrees in college, and I feel like I'm capable of understanding my contract, and I want to sit at the bargaining table and
Correct.
understand. And I've talked to through this movement and through conversations on my shop floor with workers that I've never had these types of conversations before with, that we're all very smart and very
Hmm.
capable of participating in these. There's nothing special about these men and very few women in union leadership that are somehow like holding over this idea that we lack the intelligence or experience to participate. Like there is, from my
Right.
interactions with them directly, there's nothing special about them. And from my interactions with workers directly, like the points that you just made about who cares what anybody says about the contract other than the people living under it. There's
Correct.
intelligence within the workers that does not exist in that layer that needs to be at the table if any of this has to work. So, running for union election is the way to do it. Getting involved in your
Correct.
union in any way, shape, or form is the way to do it. If you're not the person that wants to, run for union leadership, there's a lot of different people that could possibly get involved for different reasons and different motives. So, I would listen to the reasons a person says that they're getting involved and really look closely at the platform that they're, putting forward as what they intend to do if they win. Because, if you think that you are something special and you're going to come in and
Hmm.
save the union and you're going to lead everybody to the promised land, that's not happening. If you think that
Right.
the system isn't broken, it's just the wrong person in the position of power, that's not what's going on here. The
Correct.
idea is that collectively all of us together have the ability to unlock things that are actually held back and restrained by the hierarchy system that we have, because we put these people into positions of power, and then all of a sudden everybody below them, instead of contributing their own intelligent contribution with like a return that benefits them, everybody becomes a yes man to the person at the top, because the person at the top has the
Mhm.
ability to impact the lives of everybody below them. And all of a sudden you're beholden to the most stupid and dumb ideas that you've ever heard of in your life, which, if that doesn't sound a lot like working for the corporation you work for, that's kind of why this has
Right.
become a problem, right? It feels like
Very much so.
a whole nother company. So I
Right.
think
We shouldn't be fighting
no,
our
no,
leadership, union leadership, like we fighting the company. It shouldn't look like the same thing.
it shouldn't
It definitely
feel
should
like
not.
it at
Yeah.
all. That's
Yeah, for
dirty,
sure.
dirty. And that's one thing with, some of the people that I've interacted with. And, I'm actually going to try to kind of tone it down on union staff a little bit, because they're victims of the system that they're employed in as
Hmm.
well. And, with a reform to the structure, I bet a lot of their potential would also be unlocked. I bet there's a lot of people in there that got in there for really good reasons. And unfortunately, because if you don't bootlick the union boss, all of a sudden you don't have a job. And we're all existing
Right.
in the same world where, like, you are forced to go somewhere and exchange your labor for wages, including our union staff. And if all of a sudden you were, a meat cutter, and then you became a union staff member and tripled your salary, I bet your life ballooned to fill that like very rapidly. And all of a sudden, the
Hmm.
prospect, and then now you're wearing golden handcuffs, and the prospect of stepping back into a meat cutter's impossible. So I would also like to unlock the potential of union staff on the other side of running for these elections, because I think that they could be doing so much more to support the power of the worker
Right.
being unleashed if their own power was kind of unleashed. And so, I don't want to be too critical of them, but
Yeah, you have to, remain conscious. It's something that you have to continuously make sure that you stay on top of, that you don't get caught up in that machine. Because for me, I always say, listen, I wanted my people running with me to be people who are willing to do this for free. So if you've already been out here in the street doing it for free, at protests, in your community, doing other things that because it's in you, then those are the type of people that I want around me, because they're not just seeking titles and checks. We want people who are, if it's in you and your DNA, it'll be harder for you to get, caught up in that machine, because you've been doing it when you didn't get nothing for it.
yeah.
And so now that you're getting something for it, that's just an added bonus. But who cares about that? I mean, damn the wage part. Yeah, we all need money to live and work, but I want our members to actually be able to live and work. We still have members that are dealing with homelessness. We still have, and that shouldn't be in a union setting. But if we
Mm-mm.
have those issues or issues with childcare, as a union, we take care of the contract, but we need to also take care of the community part of it. Because if our members are not able to function outside of work, they can't be good members. Like, it's hard for you to be a good worker if you got so much going on in your life that you can't even see that part. You just barely making it. And so we have to tap into those other things that are being ignored when it comes to our social, issues and things. We have to tap into all those things as union leadership to make sure our members are well rounded and are taken care of in a complete way. And so those type of things haven't been happening, and it's a shame. Some we do see some union leadership that actually get it, and I need more of us to get it, okay? Because it's too many of our members suffering behind us not getting it right. So,
Yeah, I do. Like, we spend a lot of time saying, like, hey, this fight's a fight to survive. But you're right. It's not just a fight to survive. Like, working people deserve to thrive. It's the concept of like
mhm,
bread and roses, right? Like, you deserve to eat,
correct.
and you deserve to have the space to be a whole human person. Like, you shouldn't be living your life to work. And, we're in a situation here in our country, in the United States specifically. Shout out first of all, we got a bunch of UK listeners that have been jumping on board, and people in Europe that have been jumping on board. So shout out to them. I wish we had some of the class solidarity that you guys have over
I
there.
know, right?
That would be
Oh,
sick.
wow.
um,
Yeah.
but sorry, I got all excited about them and forgot where I was even going with the Europe thing. But if it comes back to me, I'll think of it again. But I wish that we had some of that, and I think you're onto something when it comes to worker empowerment and worker involvement and being members of the community, active members of the community. Like, this is something that impacts all of us, and all working people everywhere, I think they feel the struggle that you're talking about, where you know if all we're doing is working and we're just doing that to, and now in the situation we're in, guys, like it's not even providing survival wages, right? Like many of us are
Mhm.
having to do multiple jobs or things beyond just working a full-time job even to survive, and that's not the deal. Now we're in a situation
No.
where you got to be 67 years old to get your full social security, and in the United
Right.
States, this is what I remembered, in the United States you're only going to live to be 78 years old on average. So you are
Right.
going to our we have one of the lowest life expectancies of the developed world. Like we're dying like all of our people are like, "Yo, this sucks," and they're peacing out like early. And we're
Hmm.
working until just over a decade before our death. So that's the
Right.
exchange we have in our country is a full life's work for 10 years of probably a shitty pension, and who knows if social security is going to exist. But that's not the trade-off. And so what Yvette's proposing and what I think is something that we all need to consider and think about is that we as workers deserve way more than that, and there's a lot of ways that we can go about getting it. I think that building the class solidarity needed to threaten a true general strike is the conclusion. But along the path to that, get involved in your union. If your union isn't pushing for and speaking on these things, if it's not talking about how we need to be active members in our community and be supporting each other in the broader fight against these corporations, not just in our own jobs and our industries, but as working people together, and groups like the Teamsters and groups like the UFCW and the SEIU, they need to be banding together in even bigger ways and taking even more direct action against this assault. Like that's the
Right.
power that we have as workers. And if that's not happening, like, this good enough contract or this taking care of one group of us but not all of us contract, like we need to be hyper aware of that and actually saying, no, like that's actually not going to be enough for me. And we deserve
Right.
that. We deserve that. There's no reason we shouldn't have that. Generations before us did have it, a slice of it, the closest
Yeah.
we've ever gotten, they had it. But before that, people fought and died to even give us the chance to go for it. So before we lose that,
Correct.
in an environment where workers' rights seem to be getting control alt deleted day by day, I think we need to start taking some bigger swings. I think workers need to start pushing each other to stand up together. Look for worker leaders in your environment and encourage them to get more involved if it's not you. And if it's not you, there's a lot of ways you can support. I have a cool story, and I'll throw it to you after this story to wrap it up. But I've got a cool story about this guy named Chris, one of my brothers at work, and I got like early on, I was freaking out about like, dude, nobody cares. Nobody's fighting enough. Nobody's doing enough. Like, we need to be marching on the boss. Like, we need to be standing up. Like, I think one of our coworkers actually got suspended and transferred out for some shit that didn't actually happen, and the manager lied about it. And the union was
Wow.
just like, "Yo, take the transfer. You're lucky you keep your job." I was like, "No, dude, this is like injustice." We had statements that we had built up, rounded up, and everything. Like we were ready to go to war. And I got pissed because everybody just kind of like, once he got transferred, it was like, okay, whew, that's over. Let's quiet down. And I'm like, dude, we need to be
Mm.
way more active, and we need to fight.
Right.
And I came to work one day, and in my office there was a green like bullhorn, like megaphone, and there was this welded steel like pedestal that you can stand on, and it had a wooden top, and spray painted on the wood it said Union Pulpit. And I was like, dude, what is this? And I was going around the store saying, hey, what is this? And they said, hey, Chris put that in your office. So I went up to Chris and I was like, hey, bro, thanks for the thing. What is that thing? That's cool. And he built it. He like welded it himself. And he told me, he said, hey, some of us are fighters and some of us are builders. And we all have a role to play in this. And if we can figure out what our role is, we'll be unstoppable. And that
Mm.
really sunk in with me. So if you're not, the next union president in your local, Maybe you're really good at graphic design and you can help make flyers. Maybe you're really
Right.
good at talking to coworkers and you've got a lot of trust in your shop floor. And so when you do find that person that you think would be a great leader, you can support them by adding your voice of support and being an active volunteer and helping their campaign. There's a lot of things that you can do that are non-confrontational, non-high impact, that are, more
Right.
passive, more behind the scenes, that are a huge, huge help. You can come on and do a conversational worker to worker and talk about how your working
Right.
conditions could be improved by an active leader in your shop floor. And maybe someone that you work with will hear that and be inspired to step up and make change, knowing that they have your support. There's a lot of things that you can do. So I thank you for the time today. I thank you for the conversation. It's been really inspiring for me. I love it. It fills my solidarity tank. I say it every time, like I get to talk to other workers. It's like, "Glug, glug, 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 glug," and let's go fight.
Correct.
Because
Exactly.
it gets tough sometimes. If sometimes it feels a little bit lonely, but I want to throw it
Hmm.
over to you before we wrap it up and give you a chance to say some last words. And just like I said, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Well, I definitely just want to thank you for sure because, like I said, we need more of this where workers connect, all outside of different, crafts, different types of jobs, and that's what they don't want to see. When we do this type of work, this is the type of worker power that's being built that they cannot touch, right? So, thankfully, we have these platforms. Like you say, some people are a little anti about it, but I believe, the use of social media, the use of these type of platforms can help us build something that we've never seen before because in the past they didn't have these across the world connections. They couldn't do this so easy. We have it easy to do. So all we have to do is utilize it and do what's necessary in order to force this change to happen. So, like I said, I greatly appreciate you letting me come on to speak about the Empower Slate and even, mention our Fearless Slate because we have to utilize our rank and file members to change the face, the nature, and the way that unions function in our society. So I think we're gonna get there for sure.
All right, sweet. We'll keep in touch. I'll obviously be following your Empower Slate. I threw my $10 in. You got my donation from
Thank you.
California. Full
Yep.
support. Workers have to support each other out there, and these
Yes,
things
we
are
do.
expensive. That's part of the reason that they
Correct.
set these fights up and they build their war chests up to make it really hard for workers to step up against them. But just like our weekly dues built the mountains that they sit on top of, a weekly contribution to
Mm,
the Empower Slate can do the same thing for them. So think about that,
exactly
and
right.
think about how quickly we can build power if we just unite and get together. Thank you for your time, sister. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you to everybody that catches this episode. You can do the most least impact thing in the world by liking, subscribing, sending it to 10 coworkers, letting them know you found somewhere where workers are talking. I know you got a coworker that never shuts up about this shit. Send them my way. I want to talk. Let's go. I will
That's right.
listen all day long. Send them to me. Thank you again. Appreciate it. Shout out to everybody out there. Peace, solidarity. We'll do it again. Good luck in the campaign. You got to keep us updated.
Appreciate it. Solidarity. Will do.
All right.